Hi guys, Cheshire here. Welcome to this new module. This module is about infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code is the hippest topic in IT infrastructure today, and it is very interesting. The whole reason the businesses wants to go to a cloud is scalability on demand, which means they can use the service when they want and remove it when they don't want it. They want all this to happen automatically. I have given you the example of the pizza shop or Amazon Black Friday sale. There are certain times when businesses need more computation power, and then there is a lot of time when they don't want to waste money on those things and they want to scale back in. Businesses want all this to happen automatically. They can't go running after people. It's running very slow. Can you go ahead and resize my virtual machine? Can you make it bigger? Now, okay, I'm done. Can you make it smaller? They don't want all this thing to happen. In fact, they want to build such level of automations that as soon as the system, the alerts and the monitors which are there in the virtual machines, they start figuring out, okay, there is too much of increased load which is coming in. What they can do is that they can start spinning up more virtual machines in the farm so that the additional load can be taken over by other virtual machines. And when the load is gone, when the requests have come down back to normal, then these additional virtual machines can be removed, they can be deallocated so that they can stop paying money for those machines. All right. Because if they have to manually log in and deploy the services every time they desire and turn them off when they are not required, then it is too cumbersome. This is why infrastructure as code is the way to manage the cloud. The real reason and the real way to manage the cloud is not the GUI which you have been doing so far. It is actually via the code. We have been creating all cloud resources via the admin portal so far because that was convenient. But most businesses don't do it that way. They do it using automation, tools like PowerShell or the JSON templates or the Ruby scripts. This module is an introduction to those things, but not a demo, because these topics go very deep. And infrastructure as a code is a extensive topic in itself, but it's not a difficult topic. It's not a lot of like programming requirement which is there. As long as you are all right in your college and your school with programming, you should be able to do infrastructure as code. But if you are really good at programming, then infrastructure as code is actually something which can be really good for you. So in this module, I'm just going to tell you a lot of things and just going to make the pathway clear for you that how exactly all these things happen. But I'm not going to do a lot of, what should I say, demo and deployments in this module, because this is way beyond the requirement of a standard entry-level job. This is way too cool and way beyond. If you become an expert in this, then you can be paid hell too much of money. This is not at all an entry level stuff. All right, so if you don't want to see this module at all, just leave it. It's totally all right. But because we have done so much in cloud, I have told you all the things. I wanted to show you the cool part as well, that how you can do it and how you can become really cool in the IT infrastructure world. So here is what we are going to cover in this module. I'm going to tell you what is infrastructure as code. I'm going to show you the Azure management shells which are available, the black windows, the PowerShells from where you do the magic in Azure. Then I'm going to show you the templates which are there, which we can deploy. Then I'm going to show you GitHub, what is GitHub. I will tell you how to write a JSON template, basically the structure of it, what are the components of a JSON template. Then I'll tell you how to deploy a JSON template, and then I will give you a basic, very entry level review of Visual Studio Code, which is a compiler in which you can write your JSON templates very easily. So what is infrastructure as code? Infrastructure as code is the process of managing and provisioning computer data centers through machine readable files, rather than physical hardware configuration or interactive configuration tools. So infrastructure code is a process of provisioning the load balancer, the virtual machines, the hard disk, the IP addresses and everything by writing it on a piece of paper. So instead of creating each and every individual resource with the click of a mouse and doing this and that, imagine you can just go ahead and write everything on a piece of paper and then just give it to the machine or give it to Azure, and Azure say, all right, sir, let me deploy it for you. You just wrote everything in that piece of paper and Azure went ahead and deployed it. That's what is infrastructure as code. So the tool used for infrastructure as code is PowerShell. Of course, you need to use some kind of a shell to do all these deployments. So you use PowerShell for the deployment. You can also do it from Azure GUI. You can write a template and you can deploy it using Azure GUI. I will show you that. The usual template which is used for deployment, the machine readable code is written in JSON, which is Java structured something language. I will give you the full form later in this training. And there are Ruby scripts and Chef scripts as well, which you can use. Again, advanced programming things. We are not going to get into the detail of this. GitHub is a library, an open source library where all these scripts are available, and you can also put your scripts for future use. So that's what GitHub is. And then CI/CD is continuous development of the infrastructure as code or infrastructure code pipeline, where you can do a whole automation that when there is an increased performance or increased CPU utilization on virtual machine A, then trigger the creation of virtual machine B and then use this JSON template to create the virtual machine B, and then go to the load balancer and create this rule inside the load balancer so that the further request can go to both the virtual machine instead of going to one virtual machine. You write all this thing and you leave it in a pipeline, and it gets deployed when it is needed. It doesn't get deployed when it is not needed, and you don't have to wake up from your bed. Everything happens automatically. That is what is CI/CD. The ways to access Azure Shell. Azure Shell is the first, there are two kind of a shells which are available. There is a Azure command line interface, which we call it Azure CLI. It's a set of command that used to create and manage Azure resources. Azure CLI is available across Azure services and is designed to get working quickly with Azure with an emphasis on automation. So let me show you quickly how do you access Azure CLI. So you go to your Microsoft Azure and you go here, and this is launching your Cloud Shell. Requesting, succeeded, connecting. This is connecting to your session here. And you have an option. You can launch a PowerShell window or you can launch a Bash window. I don't use Bash window. I use PowerShell. So okay, so the PowerShell is ready. So let's say that I want to find out what are the resource group in my Azure tenant right now. So first of all, I don't know how to find it. So what I would do, get command and resource group. I'm hoping that it is resource group. Otherwise, I could have only written resource and then put an asterisk. So let's see, get AZ resource group. That looks like an appropriate command for me. So I can also copy and paste it here. So it is giving me the name of the resource group which are available in my tenant and their location. So this is the PowerShell window. You got access to the PowerShell window really quickly. It is called as Azure CLI, Azure Command Line Interface, and from your Azure panel, you can just launch it from here and then start doing whatever you want to do in Azure PowerShell from right here. You don't have to install anything on your computer, and you also don't have to like get admin access to your PC or do anything else. You just have a shell at your disposal. Go ahead and start doing all the automations from here. Okay, so that's one way of accessing it. The second way is Azure PowerShell. Azure PowerShell is a set of commandlets for managing Azure resources directly from PowerShell command line. Azure PowerShell is designed to make it easy to learn and get started, but provides powerful features for automation. Net standard Azure PowerShell works with PowerShell 5.1. So once again, this is also Azure PowerShell. It's just that it got launched from here and we call it as a Azure CLI because it's a Azure like you can access it from your admin panel. The other PowerShell is the PowerShell which you install on your computer. So this PowerShell is available on Windows computer, of course. You need to download and install Azure modules on it. You need to follow the article like I have told you before. Get started with Azure PowerShell on your PC. You need to do whatever instruction they give you to install on a Windows PC. And on a Mac PC, the instructions are going to be a tad bit more. It's a bit more complicated. But once you get the PowerShell connected here, then you just have to do connect AZ account. That's it. And I just have to, I've told you before, so, but I'll just show it to you. I just have to go to this URL, and I know the URL, so I will just do it, microsoft.com/device login. And I have to copy this code. And I have to paste it here. And that's it. I'm logged in. See, I can get started. Get Azure. What was the command? Get AZ resource group. I got the same output. What I got here, I got here. You want to know what all are the tags in my subscription? Once again, I don't know what's the command. So what I'll do is get command tag. That's it. Get AZ tag. Very well. Get AZ tag. And these are the tags which are available in my subscription. Cool. So this is what is Azure PowerShell. Believe me, once you get addicted to this, this is useless. Nobody goes to GUI, man. This is so old-fashioned. Start getting expert in Azure PowerShell. That's cool. So that's your Azure PowerShell. Now the next thing is templates. So what I'm doing here as of now, all the PowerShell window, whether here or here, I'm running one command at a time. But one command at a time is very boring. You need to write a whole lot of script or a program to define everything. Let's say I ask you to create a virtual machine. I gave you a practical in the last module that create a load balancer, add a virtual machine to the backend pool of the load balancer, add a RDP rule in the network security group of the NIC card of the virtual machine, and create a virtual machine, create an availability set. What if you are very lazy and you don't want to do all that by manually going and clicking at 1,000 times? You can just write it in a template, and then you can ask Azure to deploy the template for you. So that's what is a JSON template, JavaScript Object Notation Templates. A JSON templates provide a structural description of a template. When JSON is provided, machine readable instructions on how to construct a string corresponding to those values. A template is transformed into a string by replacing each of the template literals with the corresponding JSON value. Basically, it's a template in which you go ahead and provide all the information which the Azure is going to need to create the environment which you want to create. Ruby is another script which you use for the automation. I don't use it myself a lot, but you can go ahead and read about it. There is Chef and there is Ruby. So Microsoft Azure SDK for Ruby, the project, it provides Ruby packages for Azure resource management deployment. If you're looking for Azure service management, please refer to this. So basically I just got it from somewhere on the GitHub. You have Azure Ruby scripts available with which you can once again deploy your resources. Okay, so these are just templates in which you have written. So you can write a love letter to your girlfriend in English, you can write a love letter to your girlfriend in French, you can write it in German or whatever language you want to, but ultimately the love letter is going to mean the same thing, and that's what it is. You can write the template in various ways, but ultimately a template is going to mean the Same thing, that is to deploy the resources. GitHub. GitHub is a United States based global company that provides hosting of software development and version control using Git. It has been a subsidiary of Microsoft since 2018. It offers the distributed version control and source code management functionality of Git plus its own feature. In easy words, guys, GitHub is actually a OneDrive cloud storage for the code which you write. GitHub provides an easy way to store your code and create multiple versions of your code. When you are writing a lot of code, you want to be able to go back to the previous version of code, and you want to be able to save the code in a cloud repository from where it can be accessed. And the benefit of this cloud repository is that it is specifically made for your code so that your code can reside there. And also, this GitHub provides you the starting code for a lot of work which you want to do. In a later section, I will go to GitHub. Actually, I'll just go to GitHub for right away. All right, so I just logged into GitHub here, and what you can see is that it does provide a OneDrive like functionality so that you can store your code, and I will show you how you do that. But it also provides you a lot of templates. So these are the JSON templates which are available to you. It's a blank template, there is nothing in it. It is a template which can create one virtual machine with two NICs which is connected to two subnet in one virtual network. It is a template for Azure Active Directory domain services. It is a template for DDoS prevention attack. These are, there are various numbers which are here. 101 basically means it is the simplest of the template. And then you have got 201 which are a little tough template. And there is probably 301 as well which are super tough. Yeah, 301. So you want to create a DMZ with the network storage group. You want to do multi-tier service networking. All these multi virtual machine windows. So all these templates are available, and what you can do is in a lot of cases you can just go ahead and download one of these templates. See, this template is available. And what you can do is that when you have to deploy, you just go ahead and change the values in this template. Maybe just put your virtual machine name and just change certain parameters, fill in the blanks. You don't have to think about the whole code. This will remain same, this will remain. Maybe you want to change the description. Maybe you want to change this IP address to match your virtual network. Maybe you want to change the location, the machine names, whatever you want to, and you go ahead and change those values and you deploy this template. So GitHub not only provides you a place to store your work and your templates, it also gives you a quick start into various templates. And you can take a template from here, the one which is closest to your requirement at the moment, and then you can make a certain changes and yeah, go ahead and deploy it. It's as easy as that. Now, I just showed you templates from GitHub, but I want to tell you how a template looks like. What is the structure of a JSON template? A JSON template contains of four things. Number one, schema. Schema is basically the binary, the brains behind the things. You have nothing to do with it. But of course, if you are writing something, if you have done C programming or if you have done Java programming, you would know that you have, say, printf in C, and then you have got cout in C++, and then Java you have got another way. So that is a schema. That is the way these things are written. And there are certain things which C can do, there is a certain things which Foxpro can do, there are certain things which Java can do, and there are certain things which only .NET can do and these languages can't do. It's all their schema, okay? So the number one thing is the schema of the template. You really don't have too much worry about it. It is kind of the backend thing of the template which is there. So JSON schema is a specification of JSON based format for defining structures in JSON data. It describes the existing data format which is readable by humans as well as machines. Alright, so it's just the schema. You don't have too much worry about it. But when you create a template, the schema comes up first of all. So if I go here and if I open this, this is a blank template. You see, schema. Schema is the first thing which comes in. Okay. Now, this is a standard template and then you build stuff inside this. That's how any JSON will start. Then there are variables. Variables are the objects defined in your code to provide the value for the objects like machine name or IP addresses. So you define variables under this section of your JSON template. You can create multiple variables. So the purpose of a JSON template is, let's say you want to create a JSON template to create virtual machine. Okay. Now, what ideally as a programmer you should do is that you should create one template and you should have options to pass different values to that template. So technically what you want to do is that when you deploy that template, you should leave blanks in those template which can be filled when you are deploying it. So every time when you want to create a new virtual machine, you don't want to edit your template and put all the name and IP there. Rather what you want is that you can go ahead and execute the same template again and again. It's just that when you are going to execute it, you should go and pass on the variables like what is the name of the machine and what is going to be the IP of the machine, so that the same template can be re-executed. But every time a new name of the machine can be provided, a new IP of the machine can be provided, or new configurations for whatever you're doing can be provided. So those configurations are stored in the variables. Parameters. These are the values which get passed to the variable. Parameter is a separate file. Template file is kept as is, and you can keep changing the values in the parameter file to create new resources in Azure, or for that matter any IaaS service is in an AWS or GCP. So what happens is, I'll once again go here. If you see, there are two files here. One is Azure deploy.json, the other one is Azure deploy.parameters.json. So there are two files which are usually there in a Azure deployment. This is the template which gets deployed, and this is the parameters which get passed on. So in the parameters file, there is only the parameters section. What you do is that you don't touch your deployment template at all. Everything is already defined here. You define the parameters in it, you define the variables in it, and then I'm going to talk about the resources soon. But you basically go ahead and define the parameters and variables. The parameters will have the values which are passed on for the machine name, and the variables will have the variables which are going to get those values and then do the execution. So every time when you have to create a virtual machine, what you will do is that you will come to this parameters part and you will pass on the values for the variables which are defined in a program. Like you will pass on the value for the location, so that you can deploy it in US East or Azure Australia East or India West and India Central, those kind of a thing. So location, you can pass on the IP address as a parameter, you can pass on the name of the machine as a parameter, and you can pass on other details as parameters. So those are parameters. Resources. Now this is the section where all resources like storage account, virtual machine, NIC card, etc. get created. So in the resources section, you have the real code which you use to create the resources, that is the machine or the NIC card, etc. What I'm going to do is that I'll go back to the quick start templates and I will go ahead and open one VM and two NICs template. Okay. Once again, this is the schema. The first section is parameters. So in parameters, there are parameters like virtual machine size. The type of this parameter is string, and the default value is standard DS1 V2. So if no value will be passed on for this parameter, then this machine will be created. And the metadata for this is basically description, which is virtual machine size, and some detail is written, whatever you can write. Then the second parameter is admin username. You want to pass the name of the admin username. The third parameter is admin password. You want to provide the password. For every virtual machine, you want to provide different values, right? Then the storage account type. You want to tell them which is the storage account. Then you want to pass on the location, whether you want to do it in Australia or whether you want to do it in India, wherever. Then second part is variables. So parameters got finished here. This is where we started parameters, and these are all the parameters getting passed. Then this is variable. Virtual machine name, VM multi-NIC. So this value is already defined. NIC1, NIC2, NIC1, NIC2, all these values are defined. Then subnet 1, the values are defined here. So parameters are getting passed from outside, whereas variables are getting calculated in the JSON template. And you have provided all these names. Now resources. Resources is where the actual work is happening. So name, virtual machine name. Where did it come from? Here. In variables it is defined. Type, this is virtual machine. This is part of the template. Don't be very confused with it. This part will remain as is. Even this will remain as is. It's just that in double quotes you will go ahead and change the machine name, and then that will get passed on here. Then the NIC1, NIC2, this is coming from here. Compute name, variable. So the variable value has been picked up from virtual machine name. Admin username, parameter, admin username. So for admin username, what we are going to use? The one which is getting passed from parameter. So this is how the whole program is written. Now I'm sure this is looking a bit complicated, but if you spend a bit of a time on this programming, this is not that complicated. Okay, but all these values and variables are getting passed along. Outputs is usually left blank. I honestly don't know what it is for, but I don't use it much. But everything which you wanted to do, the network security group, the rule for it, the destination 3389 RDP, allow, inbound, everything is written here. The whole template is written here. And what you have to do is you can just go ahead and use this template and you can deploy your VM. So this is a structure of a JSON template. Schema, variables, parameters, or rather parameters first, then variables, and then resources. Now once you have created the JSON template, how can you deploy it? Well, now you understand the infrastructure as code. We have even downloaded from GitHub. I just showed you, or created our own JSON template. We haven't created our own yet, but I showed you how you can get the templates from JSON from GitHub. Now, how do you actually use the template? Well, you have got two options. Azure Admin Portal, deploy a custom template. So what you can do is, you can go to your Azure portal and you can say, deploy a custom template. And you can see even those GitHub templates are available here. You can say, okay, I want to deploy this, and this is getting deployed. And one thing which you have to understand is this: everything begins with a resource group. So you can create all the resources using JSON, like you can create a virtual machine, you can create a NIC card, you can create everything, but you cannot create a resource group because everything begins with a resource group. So you either have to create a resource group from this GUI panel before you do a custom deployment, or you have to create it from PowerShell by using the command like new az resource group command, and you can create a resource group because you have to provide the resource group here. So this is the custom deployment. Now machine size has come from the template, everything has come from the template. I agree, you say purchase, and it is going to go ahead and deploy the template for you. Okay, you have an option to edit the template. So ideally what you are going to do, you will download the template and then you are going to make a changes to it for your requirement, and then you will go ahead and deploy it. So one option is this, but again, this is not a cool option. The cool guys don't do it like this. How the cool guys do it is using PowerShell. New AZ resource group deployment. Resource group name, I told you resource group is the primary fundamental block, you have to tell it. And then the template file and the parameter file path. So you basically go to PowerShell and you say new AZ resource group deployment, and then you provide. So what you can do is that you can download this file on somewhere in your computer, and then let's say you put it in the C users and Shishir folder, and then you go ahead and say the resource group name. So you have to provide resource group name, and you say test resource group or whatever is the resource group. I don't remember, guys. Yeah, so test resource group. So you have to put the full name here. Test resource group, and then you go ahead and say template, and you provide the template file path wherever, what is the name of this template file, and then you say parameter. There is parameter file path as well. I think even in that slide I have not written the command completely. So what I'm going to do is I will do what I do the best. Get help new AZ resource group deployment example. So new AZ resource group deployment, resource group name, then the template file, and then the template parameter file. Okay, so the command is going to be new AZ resource group deployment, and then you will provide the resource group name, whatever it is. Then you are going to provide template file name, and then so you are going to provide template file name, whatever it is, and then you will find the template parameter file name. So you are going to provide both the file names, and then you are going to hit enter, and then it is going to do the deployment for you. Resource group cannot be created by JSON template. Like I said, it is the parent. So you need to have a resource group before you start doing your deployments. You need to create it using the Azure Shell or portal beforehand, because all deployment will happen under the resource group. Now, how to write a JSON template? Well, if you have a look at a JSON template, I'm sure that you will feel that it is awfully tough to create one, but actually it's not, for two reasons. One, templates are readily available either via the GUI portal download template option, or simply search internet like GitHub, and a lot of times you can just change the parameters or simple variables in the template and deploy it. So that's the number one reason. So one option to get the template is via the GitHub. The other option to get the template is when you were doing all these Azure deployments, the virtual machines or whatever you were creating, you felt that you did everything here, but actually whatever you were doing on this GUI, Azure was deploying it still using a JSON template. It gave you an easy way to do it, but ultimately it was doing it using a JSON template, because that's the only thing which Azure realizes. So what you can do is, once you have created something, let's say that you have created here Azure virtual machines, so you do get an option to get the template which Azure used. Yeah, export template for everything. Whatever you did, Azure was creating a template in the backend for it. Okay, it has the same structure, the schema, the variables, the resources, the parameters. This is the resources file, this is the parameters files. So one more option for you to get like a template is that you can go ahead and create something online in the GUI portal, like how you know how to do it, and then once you have done that, you can go ahead and download the template from here. Everything that you created, everything, you will see that if you created a except resource group, let's say that you created a Nick card and you go here, there's a template for it. Everything was done using a template. So you have an option to download templates from here as well, and then simply change the value here and deploy them. All right, this is the parameter file for this. This is the template file for this. You can just Control A and paste it there and save it with a dot extension .json, both of them, or you can actually download them here. Microsoft makes it easy for you. So JSON is not difficult because it is available from two sources to you very easily. Either you can go online, look in GitHub, or you can go to the actual Azure portal and download one of the template which you want to tweak further. And even if you have to compile the template, there are compilers like Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code that can help you get the job done. Now, if you guys have done any sort of programming, you would know that all the programming you used to do it in some kind of a compiler. Like C programming was used to be in a C compiler. For Java, you used to have a compiler as well. I don't remember. Did we used to do Java in the Notepad directly? I honestly don't remember. So, but I'm sure there was compiler available for Java as well. Now, Visual Studio was also a compiler available. So for everything, there was a compiler. Similarly, to do the JSON, what you can do is that you can use a compiler. If you have a paid license, you can use something which is called as a Visual Studio Code. It makes writing the JSON templates very easy. You can literally keep double clicking on things and it will keep popping up code for you. Or you can use Visual Studio Code that can help you get the job done. Visual Studio is more of a hardcore developer thing, and most of the people like us who are infrastructure as code people who are doing development just as a side product and byproduct of the things, they don't use it much. But Visual Studio Code is a free software, and we people like me, we use Visual Studio Code, and it provides all the functionalities which we need to write and deploy JSON templates. So what I'm going to do now is I will quickly launch my Visual Studio Code and show you how do I use it. So this is my Visual Studio Code. And there are a few steps which you have to do to get all this up and running. Of course, you have to download and install Visual Studio Code on your computer. And then what you do is you get to a situation like this. Basically, everything will be vacant for you here. And then you have an option here and you can log into your GitHub. I'm already logged in, but in one of these options here, most likely here, you will get an option to log into your GitHub. So I told you that GitHub is like a OneDrive cloud storage for your source code. So you have to do a sign up here and it's free. And once you do the sign up and then you install Visual Studio Code here, then you can set up your Visual Studio Code and you can log in here. This way, whatever codes which you are writing, and if you actually want to download anything from directly from GitHub quick start guides, then you can also download that. But basically, you get this panel and you link it with your cloud storage in GitHub so that you can save your files. Now, either you can download a file and start editing it, or what you can do is that you can go ahead and create a brand new file. So what I'll do is I will create a new file and I will name it demo23.json. So I created a JSON file, all right. The second thing which I have to do is I've already named it JSON, so it has taken the type JSON. Otherwise, I will come here and I will change it to the format JSON, because this Visual Studio Code can be used for a lot of programming, not just JSON. So I will go ahead and choose the option JSON. And now I have certain setups done, some help systems installed in Visual Studio Code, and you should really look into some articles, and there are videos available as well which tells you how to set up your Visual Studio Code for the first time. But once you have done all your there is something which is called as extensions in it. Yeah, so if you have the right extension installed in it, so these are some of the extension: Azure CLI code, Azure repos, Azure resource manager tools, Azure resource manager snippets, PowerShell, and if you prettier format. So if you install all these things, this becomes a very powerful tool. How? Let me show you. I'm starting with my code. Okay. So how do I start? Like, it was very tough, you know. See, I got the schema. Everything which I needed, I'll just go ahead and maximize it. Everything that I needed, like a blank template which I showed to you, I got it immediately here. Now If I want to create a parameter, I can just see the format in which the parameter has to be written. I can do that. Let's say you say that Shishil, we have to create a load balancer. So what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and say ARM load balancer external, and it went ahead and wrote the whole code for me. Everything. I just have to go ahead and make changes to the things. Of course, I need to understand the things. What is inbound NAT rules? What is a backend address pool? But you know these things. What is the front end IP configuration? Everything it did for you automatically. Let's say you said that let's create a public IP, Shishir. Okay, I don't know why it is not working for public IP or if I'm in the wrong location. But let's say you said the storage account. Okay, it created the storage account. Every value, every parameter which you need for it, it went ahead and created. So it's very easy to write the code. And once you have written the code within this console, you get PowerShell as well. You don't have to leave this console. PowerShell is even available here. And you log in here. Once your PowerShell is ready, you do cd backslash and you once again do connect AZ account. Follow the same process. This is the same PowerShell. Log into the web URL from here and put this code and get connected to PowerShell and start doing the same PowerShell resource group deployment model commands and start deploying your code. And it's very easy, and that's what is Azure Infrastructure as Code. All right. So that's how you use Visual Studio Code. So I showed you how to create a file, and I showed you how to set the type to JSON. I showed you how I use ARM snippet to start writing the code. I just wrote storage account and it did it. I created the initial skeleton of the program using ARM exclamation that created the whole schema thing for me, and then inside parameter, variable, etc. we can go ahead and declare anything. So that's how you use Visual Studio Code to write your code. So that's it for this module, guys. Here is what we covered in this module. We told you what is infrastructure as code. I told you how to access Azure management shells. I showed you how to use JSON templates. I showed you what is GitHub and how you access GitHub to download various templates. I told you how a JSON template is written, the structure of it, the parameters, the variables and the other things. So that's there. Then I told you how to deploy a JSON template using Azure PowerShell or even from the template deployment in the Azure admin panel. And then finally I told you how to use Visual Studio Code to easily write your JSON templates. It's not that easy because this is a highly rewarding career and highly paid job. So these are not extremely easy things. But I have given you a starting point from where you can actually put your brain together and start doing exciting things for yourself. Alright guys, so managing Azure infrastructure as of now is not considered an entry-level task. And I say as of now because the world is changing so fast. And on top of that, infrastructure as code is definitely the cream of the industry for now. You don't need to be an expert on any one of these things to get your entry-level job. But industry is more about talks and less about work. So it looks really cool if you can mention, yeah, resource group, and it looks really cool that you say front-end load balancer and back-end load balancer and JSON templates. And I don't want that these things should send a shiver down your spine that, oh my God, this is so technical. Because guys, there is nothing called as technical. Everything is common sense. Everything is logic. If you know it, you can do it. I taught you so that you don't treat these things as alien and don't get intimidated when someone's mentioned Azure Cloud and infrastructure as code to you. Knowing about things is half the battle. Once you know, you can always develop yourself further. Having said that, if you ever get an opportunity to jump the ship from Office 365 SaaS to Azure IaaS, I would say take it, because this is definitely going to be a lucrative field for next couple of decades. What I have given you is an entry point. There is going to be a long road ahead of this, which you should be able to travel further with me or even by yourself. I would still suggest that you mention Azure cloud skills that you know of in your resume. So you can say that you are aware of Azure Compute, you are aware of Azure Network, you're aware of Azure Storage, because now that you understand the whole thing, you will not shiver when you get inside this Azure admin panel. You can easily move your way around it, and you know that the services which you know of and the services which are part of Azure IaaS, and these 1,000 services which are there, you know that they are not something which you are using as of now. Analytics, blockchain, AI, machine learning, maybe these are not the things for you for now. In future you can learn these things and go in those directions, but that won't be exactly infrastructure. That will be a different place, and you can go there. I'm not stopping you from growing there, but the point is that at least you know right now that what belongs to you. And believe me, if you go to, I'll once again take you to Azure Calculator. You see featured, under featured objects you have got virtual machines, storage accounts, Azure SQL databases, and few of these other things. So these things, Azure Storage Account and virtual machine, is under featured. Why? Because 80% of the world is inside these services. Not everybody is using AI machine learning, not everybody is using IoT, a lot of people are doing it, but you are not those people as of now. And you don't have to get intimidated because of Azure, because you know some of the key things. I do recommend rather that you do mention these skills in your resume, because it will add a lot of weight to your resume, and it would make it really good in the eyes of your prospective employers. Here's your action item for this module. Read more about infrastructure as code, get acquainted with Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell, set up your PowerShell on-prem on your PC so that you can access Azure, download the JSON templates from Azure GUI, edit them and redeploy them. I showed you that how every resource which you have created in Azure has a template associated with it, and you can download them and edit them. Create an account on GitHub and download various JSON templates, edit them and deploy them. Play around with this, guys. This is a playground. And this is an amazing field to go further into, and just go ahead and do more and more work, get more and more practice in Azure, try to do various kind of a development and deployment scenario, and I'll personally try to help you coming up with new scenarios which you can deploy in future. During our calls or during our discussions, I'll tell you what new projects which you can do, and if you are not able to think about any project, then ask me. I will keep giving you some projects and you can keep deploying them. So this is an amazing field. Learn about it and you will really enjoy it. That's it for this module, and I'm going to see you in the next module soon. Thank you.